The revolt of 1857. The 1857 revolt sowed the seeds of Indian nationalism, which laid dormant in the subconscious minds of the Indian people. It started the movement, which was a continuous struggle against the British rule till 1947. Nature of the revolt. There has been some controversy regarding the nature of the revolt of 1857. Several British historians have been biased. John K. Malso, Sir John Lawrence, Trevelyan have termed it as nothing but a sepoy mutiny. Benjamin Disraeli was the only contemporary British leader who called it as the War of Independence. The problem which is concerned while analyzing its nature was that the rebel leaders were working secretly and thus they used to destroy relevant important documents in order to escape the governmental repressions. The first important person to analyze its nature was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who has also termed it as the Sepoy Mutiny. Other historians of the 20th century like V.D. Savarkar and Ashok Mehta in their book The Great Rebellion has termed it as the War of Independence during its centenary celebrations in 1957. Some books were released which throw ample light on the nature of the revolt. Surendra Nath Sen. He was deputed by the Indian government to write on 1857 revolt during its centenary celebration in 1957. He concluded that it was neither a war of independence nor a sepoy mutiny. Majumdar. He opined that on the whole, it is difficult to discard the conclusion that the so-called First National War of Independence was neither first nor the national and nor a war of independence. Dr. Tarachand. The revolt of 87 was a general revolt of privileged group of zamindars, military intellectuals and religious leaders belonging to the Muslim Nawabs and Hindu Rajas. P. Spear. According to him, it would be anachronism to call a sepoy mutiny as the first attempt towards modern independence. In bold political sense, it was, in fact, the last attempt of the old and archaic Indian system to restore itself. Purnachand Joshi. He holds the British economic policies to be responsible for it and considers it as the democratic alliance of the military and the peasants. Shashi Bhushan Chaudhary. He considers it as the mixture of sepoy and civilian revolts. L. R. Ritz. The War of Fanatics against the Christian. T. R. Holmes. War between barbarism and civilized. Outram and Taylor. A result of Hindu-Muslim conspiracy. Political causes. As regard to the political causes, the foremost cause that triggered the revolt of 1857 was the implementation of doctrine of lapse by Lord Dalhousie. In fact, he created an atmosphere in which even the most faithful and loyal supporters of the British among the Indian rulers could not be sure about their future. In 1856, the state of Awadh was annexed by Lord Dalhousie on grounds of misrule. This angered the soldiers of the British East India Company, most of who came from Awadh. Another major political cause was the discontinuation of granting pensions to the Indian rulers like Nana Sahib of Kanpur. Similarly, the British government confiscated the estates of the Talukdars or Zamindars and thus forcing them to become the opponents of the British rule in India. Religious causes. One of the causes of the revolt was the fear among the Hindus that their religion will be destroyed by Christianity. Both the army and civil population were under the fear that the government intended to make everybody a Christian. Missionary activity was extended by the British men in all parts of the country. In occasions, the meetings of the missionaries were held at the headquarters of the district under the chairmanship of the collectors. The Hindu law of property was changed. Most of the missionaries who came to India were intolerant and dogmatic. They regarded the conversion of the whole country to Christianity as only a matter of time. They were everywhere, not only in churches but in prisons, schools, and marketplaces. The Indians did not object to their propagation of their religion, but they found that they were not content with explaining Christ, but were also busy ridiculing the rites and practices of the Indian. Thus, the leaders of the revolution of 1857 raised the cry of religion and faith in danger, and the Indian sepoys rallied round their banner. Economic causes: the huge drain of wealth, the destruction of its industry, and increasing land revenue had become the common features of the latter half of the 18th century. The East India Company, after attaining political power, used it to fund the growth of British trade and commerce at the end of the cost of Indians. The British damaged the Indian trade and manufacturing by imposing a high tariff in British against Indian goods and by encouraging all means to import British goods to India. In England, the ruin of the old handloom weavers was accompanied by the growth of the machine industry. But in India, the ruin of the millions of artisans and craftsmen was not accompanied by any alternative growth of new industrial form. A new plantation system introduced in the year 1833 resulted in incalculable misery of the Indian peasants. This was the result of permitting Britishmen to acquire land plantations in India. The hardest hit was the peasants on the indigo plantations in Bengal and Bihar. Military causes: discontentment against the British Raj was widely prevalent among the Indian soldiers in the British Army. The Indian sepoys in the British Indian Army nursed a sense of strong resentment at their low salary and poor prospects of promotion. The British military officers at times showed least respect to the social values and religious sentiments of the Indian sepoys in the army. Thus, although generally faithful to their masters, the sepoys were provoked to revolt. The Vellore Mutiny of 1806 CE, a precursor to the 1857 type revolt, was the outcome of such tendencies on the part of the military authorities. Another important cause for the sepoys' dissatisfaction was the order that abolished the foreign allowance or bhatta when they served in foreign territories. Thus, the discontent was widespread, and there was an undercurrent before the volcanic situation of 1857. All that needed was only a spark to set it afire. The revolt. An incident that sparked off the revolt of 1857 was the episode of greased cartridges. The new Enfield rifle, which was introduced for the first time in India, had a greased paper cover that had to be bitten off before the cartridges was loaded into the rifle. The sepoys began to believe that the grease was composed of fat of cow or that of a pig. This hurt the religious feelings of both Hindus and Muslims, who saw it as an attempt to break their caste and force them to convert to Christianity. As this story spread, the Indian regiments refused to accept the greased cartridges. On 26th February 1857, the 19th Native Infantry at Berhampur refused to use the cartridges and was marched to Barakpur to be disbanded. On 20th March 1857, Mangal Pandey, a young soldier of 34th Native Infantry, refused to use the cartridges, fired at his British adjutant, a sergeant major, and called upon his comrade to join him. Later he was caught and hanged. The regiment to which he belonged were disbanded, and sepoys guilty of rebellion were punished. The British, instead of diffusing the explosive situation, paved the way for a mutiny crisis by the above act. a chain reaction was set in motion. At Meerut in May 1857, 85 sepoys of the 3rd Cavalry Regiment were sentenced to long terms of imprisonment for refusing to use the greased cartridges. Therefore, on 10th May, the sepoys break out in open rebellion, shot their officers and released their fellow sepoys and headed towards Delhi. General Hewitt, the officer commanding at Meerut, was helpless to prevent the rebel army's march. Next morning, the rebellious army reached Delhi. The city of Delhi fell into the hands of the rebel soldiers. On 12th May 1857, Lieutenant Wilboy, the officer in charge of Delhi, could not prevent the mutineers. Soon the mutineers proclaimed the aged nominal King Bahadur Shah II of the Mughal dynasty as the Emperor of India. The rebellion spread throughout northern and central India at Lucknow, Allahabad, Kanpur, Banaras, in part of Bihar, Jhansi and other places. Delhi. The leadership in Delhi was nominally in the hands of Bahadur Shah, but the real control was exercised by General Bakht Khan. On the side of the British, the combined effort of Nicholson, Wilson, Bayard Smith and Neville Chamberlain enabled the recapture of Delhi by September 1857. In Delhi, Emperor Bahadur Shah II was arrested and deported to Rangoon, where he remained in exile till he died in 1862. Kanpur. At Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Baji Rao II. Last Peshwa, Nana Sahib expelled the British from Kanpur with the help of the sepoys and proclaimed himself the Peshwa. Nana Sahib, in his efforts against the British, was ably supported by two of his lieutenants. One was Tatya Tope, the another was Azimullah. Sir Hugh Wheeler, the commander of the British garrison at Kanpur, surrendered on the 27th June 1857, but soon Kanpur was recaptured by the British commander Sir Colin Campbell. Lucknow. The principal person responsible for the revolt in Lucknow was the Begum of Awadh. With the assistance of the sepoys, the zamindars and peasants, the Begum organized an all-out attack on the British. Henry Lawrence, the chief commissioner, tried to defend the British. Lawrence was killed in a bomb blast during the fight. The final relief for the British forces in Lucknow came in the form of Sir Colin Campbell, who suppressed the revolt. Jhansi. Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi, the widowed queen of Gangadhar Rao, played a heroic role in the revolt. Rani Lakshmibai, who was affected by Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse, joined with Tatya Tope. The combined efforts of Rani and Tatya Tope saw the capture of Gwalior. Meanwhile, Sir Hugh Rose defeated Tatya Tope and stormed Jhansi on 3rd April 1858. He then captured Gwalior. The Rani of Jhansi died a soldier's death on 17th June 1858. Tatya Tope was captured and hanged on charges of rebellion and murder in the massacre of Kanpur. Bihar. Kunwar Singh, a 80-year-old ruined and discontent zamindar of Jagdishpur near Awadh, was the chief organizer of the revolt in Bihar. He fought the British in Bihar. Kunwar Singh sustained a fatal wound in the battle and died on 27th April 1858 at Jagdishpur. Ultimately, the 1857 revolt came to an end with the victory of the British Viceroy Canning proclaiming peace throughout India. Causes of the failure of the revolt. The first and foremost cause was that the revolt failed to embrace the whole of India. Different sections of society, such as moneylenders, merchants, and modern educated Indians, were actually against the revolt. The lack of interest shown by the intellectuals in the movement was a serious setback. The resources of the British Empire were far superior to those of the rebels. Similarly, the insurgents lacked a carefully concrete general plan or a strong central organization to plan the movements of the army and oversee their strategy. On the other hand, the British possessed better equipment. In addition, the British were aided by new scientific inventions such as the telegraph system, and postal communications. This enabled the British to keep in touch with all parts of the country and to maneuver their troops according to their needs. All the said factors combined to cause the defeat of the rebels of the 1857 revolt and ended in the victory of the British. Significance and effects of the mutiny. The revolt of 1857, though completely suppressed, had shaken the very foundations of British rule in India. For the simple reason that the revolt exhibited the popular character, it brought together the disgruntled sections of society to rise against the British rule. The common people rose up in arms, often fighting with spears and axes, bows and arrows, lathis, and crude muskets. However, the civilian revolt was not universal but sporadic and inconsistent. Nevertheless, it added new dimensions to the character of the 1857 revolt. Another significant aspect of the 1857 revolt was the Hindu-Muslim unity. As far as the effects of the revolt are concerned, it brought about fundamental changes in the character of Indian administration, which was transferred from East India Company to the British Crown by the Queen's Proclamation of 1st November 1858. At the same time, the Governor General received the new title of Viceroy. Lord Canning had the unique opportunity to become the Governor General as well as the first Viceroy according to the Act of 1858. Lord Canning published the Queen Victoria's Proclamation at Allahabad. The term Viceroy was in the Queen's Proclamation. Lord Canning proclaimed the new government at Allahabad on 1st March 1858 in accordance with the Queen's Proclamation. The latter has been called the Magna Carta of the Indian people. It disclaimed any extension of territory, promised religious tolerance, guaranteed the rights of Indian princes, and pledged equal treatment to her subjects, that is, Indian and Europeans. The revolt of 1857 ended an era and sowed the seeds of new one. The year 1857 is a great divide between the two landmarks in Indian history. One was that of British paramountcy in the first half, and the other is that of the growth of Indian nationalism in the second half of the 19th century.